What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about Thor Love and Thunder. This is going to be a non-spoiler review. I'm going to save the spoilers for a video that I'm going to do that's going to be up on the channel this Sunday morning, so look forward to that review. So picking up right where we left off after Endgame, Thor has retired from the superhero life, but when a new threat, Gorr the God Butcher, interrupts his short-lived retirement, Thor will enlist the help of King Valkyrie, Korg, and Jane Foster to stop Gorr before it's too late. Now, this was a film that I was really looking forward to because I've been becoming a fan of Taika Waititi for the past couple of years, and I love what he did with Thor Ragnarok. He kind of infused some new energy into the franchise that was possibly dying because a lot of people liked the first Thor. I think it is an underrated comic book film, and a lot of people did not like Thor the Dark World, and I'm in that camp, but there are elements of that film that I really liked. So he came in hot off the heels of What We Do in the Shadows to infuse some new energy into this franchise, and he saved it. Even Chris Hemsworth has come out publicly and said that he was really losing interest in the Thor character. That's when Taika Waititi came in and infused just so much energy by bringing in some colorful visuals and a lot of entertainment and a lot of humor. And that carries into this film because it is very colorful, it is very energetic, and it is very funny. However, sometimes some of the humor in this film doesn't work as well as it did in Thor Ragnarok or in his other films. But Taika Waititi is one of those directors that is really good at balancing the dark elements of his films, but knowing when to levitate it with some laughter. Natalie Portman's Jane Foster comes back into the franchise, and she has cancer. And I think they handled that story very well. And I know a lot of people don't like the relationship between Thor and Jane in Thor and Thor the Dark World. I kind of enjoyed it to a degree. I'm probably in the minority that actually enjoyed that relationship to a degree. But I really enjoyed how Taika Waititi was able to elevate that in this film and make us care a little bit more. They do a really good job of connecting these two characters together again, and I think the way that Chris and Natalie play off of each other, I think they played off each other very well in this film that they had in other films. Even though I did enjoy their little stories in the other films, I think the way that this film brought out their chemistry was wonderful and delightful. I really enjoyed that part of the film, and there are a lot of great funny moments. However, whenever we do get those funny moments, sometimes they don't really mesh with the tone of the film, because like in Thor Ragnarok, there are dark moments in this film and there are comedic moments, and Taika Waititi does really bring his style to this film, and that's where it kind of feels like Thor Ragnarok was the first Thor into his world, and this was his sequel, and it kind of follows the same template that MCU sequels follow, where the first one is very entertaining and delightful, mixed in with some dark tones, but then in the sequel they throw a lot of jokes at you, and sometimes some hit, some don't, and that was the issue that I had with this film. Sometimes the jokes came in very, very fast, that it didn't give you enough time to breathe. I think it was very colorful and a lot more palatable. However, it does really have that tone balance where it leans more on the humor side than it does on the dark side. And one of the issues that I had, even though Christian Bale knocks it out of the park, and I think he did a really good job as Gorr the God Butcher, but just like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where you have a character named Drax the Destroyer, and he only destroys once. That's the same issue that I had with Gorr the God Butcher. His name is Gorr the God Butcher, but you don't see him butchering a lot of gods, and they don't use him as much. Whenever they use him very effectively by hiding him in the shadows, and I think that was one of the things that I had a lot of fun with that character, because he is kind of menacing. However, he's not completely menacing. He is forgettable, and he isn't going to be one of the best villains in the MCU, and I wish he would have, because I liked what Taika Waititi did with Hela in Ragnarok, and I was kind of hoping he would be able to infuse some of that into Gorr the God Butcher as well. but they didn't use him as much as I wanted them to, because mostly the film is focused on Thor and Jane and that kindling relationship, because the issue that she is running into, it leaned a little bit more into that and less into what makes Gore the God Butcher. I wish we could have had him butchering some more gods, but it does lean more into that relationship between Jane and Thor, and with whatever Gore is doing, because even though he is menacing when he's on screen, it kind of loses it a little bit towards the end of the film. And I liked how the whole film wrapped up. I think it was a beautiful symphony. I thought it was great, and I like what they did with the characters. However, I don't think it had a great sense of direction, because it felt like, even though there were jokes thrown at you almost every 5 seconds, and most of them do land and some of them don't, I kind of wish we scaled back on the jokes and scaled more with Gore the God Butcher, because I think he is a fascinating character. I like the story arc that they gave him. They just didn't give him a lot to do, and like I said, Christian Bale knocks it out of the park. But you don't get to see a lot of him, and I wish they could have done something different with him, because it really does have a tale of two endings, and one ending falls short and the other one just wraps it up beautifully. And I kind of wish we had a little bit more of that, because I was really invested whenever Gore was on screen, and I was really terrified of what he could have done, but they just didn't give him a lot to do in this film. He has a good motivation as to why he's doing it. That I could get behind, and I think that is one of the strongest elements about Gore and what his mission is and the reason that he's doing this. But it doesn't really come together at the end, and I wish they could have done something different with that character, or just give him a little bit more to do, because it is a quick 2 hours. It is full stop. Sometimes you are able to catch your breath and be able to ravage in what's going on, and there are some heartfelt moments in this film. I think that's one great thing that Taika Waititi does best, is bring out the emotions and make us care about these characters. But the goats in this film are amazing. I thought they used them very well. I think they weren't used as much as you would probably fear, but they were used enough, and I like what they did with Valkyrie in this film. I think Tessa Thompson nails it again. I think she is just amazing in this film. But I think Natalie Portman does a really good job of actually making us care about Jane Foster in this film, because in other films, even though I did like the relationship, sometimes it felt like she was just phoning it in. She definitely phoned it in Thor the Dark World film, but even though she mailed it in kind of in that film, I thought she still gave enough effort for me to care about that character. I think they used her brilliantly in this film. I think they gave her some great moments, and even though sometimes the comedy that she was delivering didn't hit as well as I wanted to, it kind of felt a little bit awkward. But that's not a knock on Natalie Portman, because I think she delivered a fantastic performance in this film, and you actually do get to care about her, mostly because of what she's going through. And there are some surprises in this film that I really enjoyed, some that I wish were kept back just a little bit. But I thought this was fun. It was entertaining. It's not as good as Thor Ragnarok, but I still came out having a good time. I think this is a film that you want to see on the big screen, and I think it's going to be, even though it's not going to be on my top 10 of the year, I thought it was still worthwhile. I thought it was still entertaining. I thought it was still funny, and I just thought it was a little bit of a letdown with Gore the God Butcher, but aside from that, I think it was very entertaining. Overall, I'm going to go ahead and give Thor Love and Thunder a 7 out of 10. Like I said, it is a bit of a letdown, because even though I was on the road with the villain, I really liked his moral mission. I like what he was doing with the character. They just didn't give him a lot to do. He wasn't in the film as much, and they devoted a little bit more time between Thor and Jane, but I still enjoyed it. I thought it was still fun. I thought it was really colorful. The jokes that hit hit and the moments and the jokes that didn't. But what are your thoughts on Thor Love and Thunder? Leave those non-spoiler thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this review, why don't you go ahead and click that subscribe button and that like button so you can bring some love and thunder to the channel, and click that bell notification so you get notified when a video goes up, so you can see my pretty face and my awesome decorated hat next time you visit the channel. So until next time, this is Josie signing off.